Do you spend every waking minute looking at the machinations of the Legal Affairs Committee of the European Union? No, neither do I, but as a photographer, perhaps at the moment you should be, because they are about to steal a very important right for photographers. Hi, my name's Matt Widgery from mattwidgery.com. Yes, that's right. Today we're going to be having a look at freedom of panorama. Now, for those of you that haven't heard this phrase before, basically what it does is it enshrines in law the ability of photographers to take pictures in public spaces and of public buildings without them being subject to the usual copyright laws that would mean that we would have to seek permission from copyright holders if we wanted to then use those images commercially. So if you take a picture in a public space, for example, London, where there are buildings such as the London Eye, which have a copyright to them, and maybe there are some advertising hoardings in the background which also have copyrighted images, and there are people in those pictures who have branded logos on their t-shirts or baseball caps or whatever it is. If we have this taken away from us, we would have to seek permission from the copyright holders of all of those copyrighted elements within that image if we wanted to use them commercially. And currently, as it stands now, we don't. So there's a bit of a debate going on, or a huge debate going on in Europe at the moment. One of the key recommendations of German MEP Julia Rieder, she recommends that member states be required to enshrine this freedom in their national laws. Currently, there is a provision for it in the European Union's legislation, but it's not mandated that member states have this principle enshrined in law. And what's happening on the counter side of that, and why this is coming to a head at the moment, is that there is an amendment proposed by French MEP. MEP, for those outside Europe, that's Member of European Parliament, by the way, just in case you're watching in places where the phrase means nothing to you. But French MEP, French Member of European Parliament, Jean-Marie Cavada, who basically wants people taking commercial photos to get prior permission from copyright creators for any incidental copyrighted works captured in their images. So this is this business. If you go and shoot, a picture of, I don't know, the Eiffel Tower or whatever. The Eiffel Tower, by the way, isn't a copyrighted thing because it's too old. But so you can shoot it during the day, but at night when the lights come on, the pattern of those lights is actually copyrighted, so you wouldn't be able to put the images up at night. Now, people have been asking me for a few days now about what my thoughts are on this, and I actually responded initially, and I was fairly dismissive of the whole thing because it did sound thunderously idiotic, in my opinion. The basic problem is this: even if they were to put this through and take this away from us, because we do have it in the UK currently, if they were to take it away from us, then you'd have a big problem, because there are already billions of images out there in the world that contain copyrighted elements. And so the job of trying to go through it and try and sort of retro apply all the permissions to all the photos that currently exist there that are being used commercially and are out there and have been published, it's kind of the ship has sailed for them. So then it would come down to what's known as grandfather's rights. Which means basically there's a cut-off where if this law is passed after the vote on July the 9th, then any photo that was taken in front of that date or from then on would not be would be subject to these limitations. You'd have to go and seek permission. Anything that was taken before that date, you wouldn't. So, but then it comes down to, well, how do you prove when the photo was taken? Do you look at the raw data? Do you look at the EXIF file of your camera? But what happens if the date on the camera is set wrong? What happens if you've shot it on film? And there isn't any EXIF data to go by. So, what happens if you shot a roll of film in 1987, got it developed and scanned in, and the metadata on the scan says 2015? So the thing to me seems thunderously idiotic, and if it does come in, I don't really see that there's much way that they can enforce it. So I was kind of dismissive of it, but it does seem to be gathering strength, and there are obviously a large tranche of people who feel very, very strongly about this issue and feel that it is a right that we should protect in law. And I'm inclined to agree. I don't like the idea that they're going to take this away from us, even though... Because although I don't think it's enforceable en masse, I do think it's the kind of thing where it's a tool that can be used in specific cases. They could go after specific photographers for specific photographs, which would otherwise, be fine. And I just don't like the idea that they have that tool available to them. A part of the reason why this has caught the attention so much of the press, I think, is because Wikipedia founder Jimmy Wales wrote a piece in The Guardian, the newspaper here in the UK, warning the public of the dangers of taking freedom of panorama away from us. And as a consequence for that, Petapixel have reported that there is now a 315,000 signature strong petition on change.org. People are actually sort of, putting a petition together to strike down the proposed amendment. And actually go a little bit further. It's calling on them to also extend full freedom of panorama to all member states, because currently there is a big discrepancy amongst the member states. There isn't any in France currently. Italy has very little. Some of the countries have a bit more. We have a lot. So it's kind of, there's a little bit, it depends where you are, even within Europe, or as I say, although there is provision in law from the European Union to have freedom of panorama into member state legislation, it isn't in any way something that's kind of uniformly applied across the entire of Europe. So this is obviously something that's gathering momentum, and I would personally like to say that from that point of view, if we can get something where it is a universally applied thing, where we're all subject to the same thing, and we can go wherever we want and take pictures in public spaces without worry about infringing, the copyright laws of, buildings or T-shirts or billboards. I think that's a very good thing. So if you are concerned about this and you want to help, there are two things you can do. One, you can go to the change.org petition and you can sign up there, and you can also contact your MEP through Write to Them, where you just have to enter your postcode and get a list of who your local MEPs are. So what I will do in the notes underneath this video on YouTube, I will put a link to the change.org petition, and I will put a link to Write to Them so that you can find out who your local member of European Parliament is, and you can write to them and ask them to vote no to this proposed amendment, which is going to take place on July the 9th. So you've got a couple of days, so get out there and do it today, tomorrow. And let's hope that we get a win on this one. So that's it. Thanks very much for watching. As usual, if you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to the channel, and I will see you again very soon. Thanks for watching. Cheers.